Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world tonight. This is Grant Cameron, and you're listening to the Cameron Files. I've been in this since 1975, and I always have stated in all the different UFO things I've done that the most important aspect of the UFO story, in order to learn what's actually going on, you have to talk to experiencers, to people who have interacted with the intelligence behind this phenomenon. You can look at all the videos you want. You can look at all the metal you want. It's only going to tell you something weird is going on. And until you talk to experiencers, you will not understand what's actually going on. So today I'm honored to have Sev Tok, who is an experiencer who now lives in North Carolina. And she has written a book, and it's going to be backwards on the screen here. But she just put out a book, which I think everybody should be reading. It's called You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. And we're going to go through Sev's story, her background, and particularly we're going to look at what is the message that she thinks the aliens are bringing to the world. So good afternoon, Sev. How are you?
Hi, Grant. I am good. Thank you so much for your attention and your support. I'm very grateful. I'm very happy to be talking with you.
Well, I'm honored to have you on, and I'm honored to hear your story. So let's start from the beginning. We had discussed before, you've got a little bit of an unusual name. So can you describe your background, where you come from, and how you ended up in North Carolina?
I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey. That's where I was born. My family's Turkish. And when I was 1, we left. My parents just wanted an adventure. And we came to the DC suburbs. I grew up in the DC suburbs. My full name is Sev Tok, and I just go by Sev. It's easier to pronounce that way.
Wow. And your UFO experiences, I believe, started young. But first, did your parents have any sort of interest in the phenomena, or were they experiencers? Had they seen stuff?
Yes, I know my father has. I don't know if my mother has, but both of my parents are plugged in, so to speak, and both of them have had interesting spiritual experiences where they've heard messages, or maybe where they've seen entities. My mother, I think maybe it scared her, so she really didn't delve into it too much, but both of my parents were very interested in spirituality, and at a very young age, I was taught that we have a soul, and there's reincarnation, and there's more to us than just this body. So I was brought up in a spiritual way. Despite coming from a Muslim country, I was not brought up Muslim, and my parents weren't Muslim. As far as ET contact, I believe they have had it, but it scared them. Maybe they didn't understand it. And I think I have a sister too. And I think out of the 4 of us, I was the one that was, how shall we say, more open to it and really wanted to delve into it and understand it.
Wow. And so your experiences start very young. Do you have clear recall of when it started?
Age 10.
Okay.
And it's the first chapter in the book. I talk about a galactic being that visited me regularly. And he came in a spaceship, and each time he would come from a different direction, and it was a different experience, and he was coming to check up on me. And this lasted until I was 12, and then it stopped. And at the last visit, I was with a group of children, and I had never been with a group of children before. This time it was a group of us, and it was as if he was coming and he was saying goodbye. You got to do your thing. Now, at that time, I thought I was just imagining things, but I couldn't let go of it. Even as a child, I would have this experience, and then I'd have to go to elementary school. So I always grew up thinking there was something strange about me or different about me that I couldn't share with the other kids. And I didn't even tell my parents about this. They would have been open, but I still kept all of this to myself.
So the being that you saw when you're 10 to 12, it wasn't the same being as later. Can you explain that, or the different types of beings? And do you have any idea why you had two different beings visit you in your life?
Yes, when I try to make sense of it. When I was little, this being looked very human, a young man. And I do believe that I was, it's kind of hard to say, it's still hard to say,
Yeah.
that I came with a mission and a purpose, and that this being was helping me while I was a child. And then when I reached adolescence, it departed, and then I was kind of on my own. Later on in life, the conscious ETs, the conscious memories of ETs that I have are with the Greys. Now, at the same time, I'm a medium and I channel, and I've channeled all kinds of entities, from dead people to beings from other planets to just consciousnesses. So I've always been channeling and interacting with non-human entities. However, my experience with the Greys was completely different. It was not a dream, it was a real experience, but I couldn't admit to myself that it was real. I thought it was a dream, or that I was going crazy. And Grant, it wasn't until they left that red X on my hiney that I had to come to terms that, oh, okay, this is really happening. There's a reason this is happening. And I did a lot of self-introspection. I did a lot of work as to why is this happening to me, and what am I supposed to do with this message. And I explained in the book that I've been going through 45 years of denial. I'm 55, and just not admitting this aspect of my reality. A few years ago, I decided that I wanted to be the most version of myself that I could possibly be. I think it's only through expressing your authenticity that you find fulfillment and personal peace. And so as I was on this path of authenticity, the aliens came up, and I had to deal with it. And that's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because there are millions of people who are having ET contact, but they don't know it. Because much of ET contact happens in a multi-dimensional fashion. So you think it's a dream, but it's not a dream. Or in a meditation, when you make contact, you might think you're just imagining it. You're not imagining it. It's real. And that is one of the reasons I wrote this book, is for people to admit what's happening to themselves. The more of us that come out and say, I'm not hiding anymore, I'm going to be my authentic self. This is for real. When we individually express our authenticity and find the lies about ourselves and find the truths about ourselves, then we can collectively demand the truth. And that's when we're going to have the disclosure.
Yeah. You'd mentioned the X, and I think I had mentioned to you that the reason I thought they were leaving these kind of marks is not because they're doing some sort of bizarre test on you, but the fact that they want you to know it's not a dream. Because so you confirmed that before that X appeared, you sort of thought maybe you were as a dream, or you're going crazy, or this really wasn't happening, and that may be why they left this. And they left a triangle as well. Can you describe these two incidents and how they sort of change you?
Sure. It was a rectangle. And so that was on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And there I have a picture of this rectangle that was cut out of my back. And you can very clearly see 4 slice marks. When I saw that, it really got my attention, but still I was thinking, oh, maybe the cat did it, or maybe I bumped into something, which doesn't make sense. It was bleeding, it was very fresh, and I didn't even feel it. One would think that if you have a chunk of skin cut out of your back, you would feel it. I never even felt it. So on top of that, for many, many years, I've had all kinds of weird things appearing on my body, bruises I couldn't explain, dots I couldn't explain, but I tried to explain them. But this rectangle really caught my attention. But I guess it wasn't enough. And so they had to take it one step further. And we moved from Capitol Hill to the inner banks of North Carolina, where I am now. And my second night here, I had contact, and they put a red X on my back. And when I saw the picture of that red X, it was like all the blood left my body. I was shocked and stunned. I was afraid, because at that point, I thought the grays were no good. I thought grays were bad. I don't think like that anymore. And then 9 days later, they left another X on my hiney. The first X was on my left cheek of my hiney, and the second X was on the right cheek of my hiney. And with the second X, I had a very conscious memory of being in a bed. It was like a hospital bed, and I was on my side, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move my arms, and I couldn't move my legs. And I was in a room that was it felt very sterile. There was hardly any furniture in it. I couldn't move my head, and I felt that there was something behind me. So I turned my head, and then face to face with a gray, and I drew a picture of it. It's in the book. And we made eye contact. And as I describe in the book, it was like looking into two pools of black oil. And it wasn't mean, and it wasn't nice. It was very neutral, but at the same time, I was scared to death. And I turned back around, and I'm in my bedroom. And often after these experiences, when I'm back in my bedroom, it's a very sudden awakening. There is no grogginess. It's not like, oh, I was sleeping and I'm starting to awake. It's like you popped back into 3D reality very quickly.
Your interaction with the grays, and I guess you'll have to tell the story of your encounter with the grays, how it started. But when you saw the gray, question I want to ask is the frequency different? Because sometimes you hear the story that the grays are working with us, but a lot of people seem to describe that the frequency of a gray, it's like very hard to be around them in terms of looking into their eyes, or whether they could actually interact with people on a daily basis. I often think that maybe that's not true.
Well, I didn't have any problems looking into the eyes of these grays, and there's two other very conscious memories I have of being with the grays, and I didn't have any difficulty looking at them. I can understand that the frequency of Earth is different, and maybe they can't stay here for very long. I understand that. But then again, I was taken through a time portal. So often when we have these experiences, we're taken through time portals. We're in other dimensions, and we're acclimating to the frequency there. And so that is how we can have these interactions.
So how does it happen? Go through the story. Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I forgot to say, when I was in that bed, in that room, I also knew something that I had never, ever known in any of my other dealings with the grays, and that was that I was on the moon. And it sounds crazy, but I knew I was on the moon.
Okay. With them?
Yes.
And why? Were they telling you things, or why do you know any idea why you were there?
Well, that's when they were putting the X's on me. And okay. I agree with you. I think the X's were put on me to get my attention and for me to start my mission of coming out and telling the world what's going on. I also think it had something to do with Kundalini energy. We all have Kundalini energy that resides in us, and it sits in the lower part of your body. And as it starts to rise up, you change. And symptoms of Kundalini rising within you is the need to know the truth. The need to be your authentic self. And this is exactly what I'm experiencing right now. So I think they were helping me. I think they're helping me. I used to be so afraid of them, and that's because I was viewing my experiences through my own lens of fear, I have been in abusive relationships. And so I'm like, oh, here we go. The grays are abusing me too. And it's not until I did the self-introspection and the spiritual work to get rid of that vibration from my personal energetic matrix, then I understood, oh, the grays are not bad. The grays are not out to get me. The grays are here to help me, and they're here to help mankind. Now, when I was in Roswell, they gave me a lot of information. This is just memory. They gave me when I was in Roswell, New Mexico, and my boyfriend was kind of part of the experience. They gave me a lot of information about the hybridization program.
So tell me the story about Roswell. What happens there?
Well, it's a place I've wanted to go ever since I was a little girl. And my boyfriend surprised me. He said that he had to go to White Sands, New Mexico for work. And that's a very interesting place. And he was in Hawaii at the time. And he said, I'm going to fly over there. Why don't you fly over to El Paso? I'll pick you up. We'll go to White Sands, and then I'll take you up to Roswell. So White Sands was not, I never want to go to White Sands again. There is an energy there that made me extremely uncomfortable. I do not like that place. And I'm talking specifically about that military place. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yes. And so you're on the White Sands base? You were right on the base?
We were in the range, yeah.
Okay.
We were in it.
Okay.
Yeah, because of what my boyfriend used to do for a living.
Okay.
And I just, all the hair stood up on my body. And then we went to Roswell, and we had a good time going to the museum, and our hotel was right there. We went to the hotel. We were both tired, and my boyfriend was in the bathroom, and I was watching TV, and I was thinking to myself, oh, I wish that show People of Earth would come on. Have you ever seen People of Earth?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Conan O'Brien produced it, and it's a really interesting and funny take on experiencers.
Yeah.
But the season had ended and it wasn't on anymore. So when my boyfriend came out of the bathroom, I was flicking through the channels, and then I stopped it on a commercial. And then a couple seconds later, all of a sudden, People of Earth is on the television. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I got kind of weirded out. And we watched it, and he liked it, and we went to sleep. Well, the next thing I know, my eyes popped open. The room was pitch black, and I heard footsteps. And it was my boyfriend. He was walking on the carpet, and I felt him get into the bed. And I thought to myself, why was Patrick sitting on the couch? Did it have to do with the aliens? And I went right back to sleep.
Okay.
So I woke up in the morning, and Patrick was taking a shower, and I'm thinking to myself, why did I think Patrick was sitting on the couch? Patrick never gets up in the middle of the night and sits on the couch. And why did I think it had to do with aliens? Then all of a sudden, I had this gush of memory and information while I'm sitting there in the bed. And I saw myself sitting at a table with several grays, and we're having a meeting or a conference. And I started remembering the hybridization program, why the grays are having hybridization program, what it is that they're looking for. They're looking for emotion. They're looking for the ability to express emotion. And they were telling me why they picked me. I express emotion very easily. They lack that emotion, and because of that, it is causing them the inability to grow in numbers. And there are hybrid babies, and these babies, there's billions of them, and they're kind of like being held just in case we annihilate ourselves on this planet. And this also explained an experience that I had a few years prior where I saw a baby in a tube, but I'll get back to that story if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
So all of this information is coming forth, and then I also realized that I was talking to them about a book that I was writing, but that's all I could remember. So when my boyfriend came out of the bathroom, I asked him, did you get up in the middle of the night and sit on the couch? And he said, yes. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. Well, why did you do that? And he said, Patrick is an extremely logical person. He worked for the U.S. Navy, managing radar test programs, and he just loves logic. And he said, this has never happened to me before, but there was something in this room looking at us. And I kept getting up and I couldn't find it. And it was such a strong feeling that I couldn't sleep. I had to get up on the couch and sit there and watch you. And you were just flipping around in the bed. I thought for sure you were going to wake up. And so when Logical Patrick said that he felt something in the room, I'm like, okay, we had a shared experience. And it kind of messed me up. It kind of messed him up a little bit too, but it messed me up for a while. I wanted to know, what was I talking about with those grays? Why was I talking about a book? And I didn't want anything to do with them. At that point, I thought the grays were bad. And I have a practice doing soul purpose readings. And I didn't want my clients to think that I'm talking to grays. I didn't want anything to do with the grays. So after a couple of months of trying to let go of this experience, and I couldn't, a friend of mine told me about Diane Kensler in Virginia, who does regression for experiencers. So I went to her, and in the book, I share with you the entire session. And we were able to plug into what happened in Roswell. And there was more information given. And basically, very interestingly enough, at that time, I was writing another book. I was writing a book about how to fall in love with yourself and how that changes your life. And they were telling me not to write that book. They were telling me to write another book because it was going to be better received. So I thought I was making a deal with the devil. I'm like, what are you talking about? Now, looking back on it, Grant, I see exactly what was happening. It was like, this is the book that I was supposed to be writing, and they were telling me that this is the book that I should be writing.
Wow. Do you think they helped you write the book, or was it easy to write?
Very easy. Very easy. Once I made the decision to write the book, I wrote it in 2 months.
Okay, instruction. So you mentioned the earlier beings you saw when you were 10 to 12, and you seemed to indicate that they had given you the idea that you had a mission. Are both beings giving you this idea that there's a mission, and what do you think your specific mission is for them?
Yes. At the time when I was 10, I did not know that I had a mission. Now looking back on it, I understand what was happening. My mission is to help experiencers come out. So you can process this and move on with your life and be the most authentic version of that you can. My mission is to come out and say we are not alone, and this hiding it and this lying about it is crazy, and it's messing us up. This is not authentic. Let's be our real selves. Let's know the truth. And my other mission is to help people find personal peace. You find personal peace and fulfillment through authenticity. And knowing that we are not alone is knowing the truth. Wow.
Let's go over the regression a little bit. What other items can you bring up sort of that came out in the regression? Were you easy to regress? Were you willing to do this? Was there anything that sort of shocked you when she did the regression that, oh my goodness, this is going on, I didn't know?
I can't say I was very shocked. It was a long one. It was over an hour, and I went under very easily because of what I do for a living. I'm a medium. I'm a channeler, so it was very easy for me to go under. I went under very quickly, and there was a lot of information that came out, not only from the grays, but also about my mission. Also, I visited a couple of past lives that were very interesting. And one thing that did catch my attention was that I was told that there are lots of people here on missions. Some people call them light workers or light seeds. So there's so many different names.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people are in the music industry. They're actors. They're politicians. They're famous. Some of them know it and some of them don't know it. The ones that don't know it or won't admit it, and this is not just for the famous people, this is just for the normal people too. When you're not admitting the truth about yourself, often this leads to alcoholism, or it leads to drug addictions, it leads to other issues. So I found that information interesting. I was also told that I would start meeting more and more people who are here on a mission. That we have a shared mission. So I want to meet those kids. Like the last visit that my galactic friend had with me was when I was with a group of kids, and I want to meet those kids. And so am I going to start meeting those kids? Have I already started meeting those kids? I have a hunch that I may have started meeting them. And I just wonder when that's going to happen. Are we all going to reunite?
Where was that event when you were with the kids? What part? It wasn't in North Carolina. It was someplace else, correct?
It was in Crofton, Maryland, which is right outside of Annapolis.
Okay. Now, you interacted with the Greys, and of course, one of the things maybe you can get across, because you know that a lot of people think this is like the devil on earth, these Greys. They're absolutely terrible people. What message can you give based upon your experience that they may be wrong in terms of what the Greys are really doing?
Mm-hmm. There's different types of Greys, and from my experience, they are not evil, and they're not here to take over, and they're not here to kill us. And these hybrids that they're creating are not killing machines, because they're creating these hybrids with us because they want to invoke, so to speak, or they want to splice in through DNA love. And so if you're looking for a killing machine, that's not a good killing machine. If you're looking for a killing machine, you want something that doesn't have love and sympathy in it.
Yeah.
So when people think that the hybridization program is to create these monsters that are going to take over, I say, well, then they're not going to be very successful, because all of these hybrids are filled with an intense amount of love.
Where do you think the hybrids are? Do you think you have them on another planet, or where are they? Because there would be lots of them. Where are they? They're not on board the ship, or have you interacted with any of these hybrids?
Yes. So I have a very conscious memory of being in a dark room, and I was standing in front of a tube. I drew a picture of this experience. It's in my book. Okay. And this experience haunted me for years. It was before Roswell. So I saw a baby in a tube. It was floating in this liquid, and I knew it was a male, even though I couldn't see the genitals, and it had the bluest eyes I have ever seen. And I'm looking at this baby, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I looking at this baby? I don't understand why I'm looking at this baby. And then all of a sudden, I turn my head, and there's three Greys behind me, tall, medium, and short. And they telepathically tell me, take your time, take as long as you need, it's okay. And I turned back around, and I looked at this baby in the tube, and I didn't feel anything for this baby. I still didn't understand it. And then I popped back into my bedroom, and it haunted me for years. So then when I had the experience in Roswell, then I understood, oh my gosh, I'm part of this hybridization program, and that's what they were showing me. They were showing me a baby that had something to do with me. Now, I have never had children in this body. I don't have any children right now.
How many, do you have any indication how many hybrid children you may have? Or have you ever had the bonding experience? Sometimes they'll take the baby and you hold the baby to bond with it, and then it's gone. you ever had that experience? No?
I've heard about it, but I have not had it.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So you have no idea how long they've been doing this hybrid with you, or how many children you have?
No, I don't know. I know it's more than one. I do feel that it's definitely more than one. Now, there were many times that I would go to bed fully clothed and wake up completely naked. There were many times in the middle of the night, I would wake up to sounds, or one time I woke up to the brightest light in my hallway. And I thought that I had left a light on, knowing full well I have no light that is that bright. And when I woke up in the morning, there were no lights that were left on. I felt beings and entities in my bedroom touching me while I'm awake. And so all kinds of things were going on and happening. And it really isn't until just a few months ago, I just wrote this book last summer. It's only been a few months that everything is starting to come together in my mind and start to make sense. And I wrote the book, and then just a few weeks later, I got the call from AlienCon in Baltimore to come talk at that convention. And that was my big coming out.
Wow, excellent. And you were well received?
Yes, yes,
Beautiful.
It was a great experience. And I was also there with my book, and I have to tell you, about 90% of the people who went to my table and bought my book had an experience or story. I was like, wow, it is more people than we think. It is more people than we think. So the book that I'm reading right now, Beyond UFO, that Free wrote, do you know the book I'm talking about?
Yep. On consciousness. Yeah.
Do you know the title? I would really like to say the title.
Beyond UFOs, and then it has to do with consciousness.
Yes.
Beyond UFOs.
Yeah. Right. And also Kathleen Martin, who endorsed my book, who's the director of experiencer research at MUFON, she wrote a chapter in it. So I have to say Kathleen Martin was a huge help in me coming to terms with this. And I was very honored that she endorsed my book. And now I forgot what I was talking about. Where am I going?
Well, let me ask you a question related to that. You saw the statistics on Free in terms of a lot of the different things that happen to experiencers. For example, 25% were talked about reincarnation, 54% were talked about oneness and love, 76% believe reincarnation is involved, 42% have downloads, 40% believe they have at some point have had the answer to everything in the universe in their head. So is there anything that stood out in the Free stats where you said, oh, I experienced that, this is right, like in terms of the different statistics of paranormal events and things like this that you related to their study? Have you done the study, the Free survey of 500 questions or whatever it is?
I don't think I've done it. I don't recall doing it.
Yeah, you would have remembered. Almost 600 questions, I think.
Oh, no. Okay, then I didn't do it. I wish this book was out years ago, because this book was out years ago, it would have saved me a lot of mental turmoil. And if anyone listening or watching is an experiencer or even thinks they're an experiencer, this is an excellent book to read, because it makes you realize you are not alone and you are not weird. And it is not your imagination. It is such a good book. And I really identified with a lot of it. One thing I found interesting was that a lot of people were claiming that they were having interactions with light beings. I found that interesting. So it doesn't have to be like this very 3D looking alien with big eyes. People are also having experiences with different types of entities and beings. There's so many different types of beings. You know, what we know, the few we know about, that's just like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. In terms of your abilities, like you'll see in the Free survey, a lot of experiencers have mediumship, able to heal, all this kind of stuff. When did this start for you, the mediumship, and do you think it's tied in?
I do think it's time. I've known ever since I was a little girl that I just knew stuff about people that I wouldn't normally be able to know. And when I started expressing this at a young age, my friends were looking at me like, how do you know that? What are you talking about? So I just stopped telling people. And it was one of the biggest struggles of my life, coming to terms with that ability. And it's an ability that we all have. There's nothing special about me. There's absolutely nothing special about people who talk to the dead or who channel or do any kind of mediumship work. We all can do this. We're all hardwired for this. All it takes is for you to believe that you can do it and then just practice. And there came up, I used to do a lot of automatic writing. Back then it was called automatic writing. Now it's just called channeling. And I would just write pages and pages and pages of beautiful messages. And it was not me. It was not the way I wrote, and there were no errors in it. It was just page after page after page of beautiful messages. And they would make me feel good. And then I would say to myself, I'm crazy. And I would just rip them up and throw them away.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I was on that roller coaster for decades.
Wow.
Until finally in my early 40s, I was like, I need an answer. Either I'm crazy, and if I am crazy, then I'm going to go get help. And if I'm not crazy, then I need to do something with this. So I got my answer. I'm not crazy. And that's a story in itself, how I got the answer. And then I started doing readings, and I could do them. And now I do soul purpose readings, and I can hear, feel, and see information about people, about their purpose and how they can fulfill their purpose, and what some blocks are that are preventing them from advancement. And I talk a lot about the energy that you exude. We're all walking balls of energy, and the energy you exude is what creates your reality. And the energy you exude is from your mind and what you think about yourself and other people in the world. I talk a lot about the law of alignment, not so much attraction, since quantum physics says that the energy of everything is everywhere. I believe you don't have to attract anything, because the energy of what you want is right here. All you have to do is tweak your energy to align with the energy of what you want, and it's in your life. It's right there. So I talk and I teach and I write a lot about that.
Wow. So how do you align it? What would you be telling someone? How do you sort of get in alignment with the energy?
Well, basically expressing your authenticity, and investigating your thoughts, and how often you tell yourself that you're not good enough, or how often you tell yourself you're stupid, how often you tell yourself I can't accomplish that, or she was born lucky and I'm not, and all these horrible things that you tell yourself. How often you concentrate on what you don't have, how often you concentrate on your lack, instead of looking at what you do have, and then realizing that you have the self-power, you're in control. And how many of us play the victim role? I played the victim role for a long time. I was in abusive relationships, and I thought everything was everybody else's fault. Poor me. Once I bounced out of that, oh my gosh, my life completely changed. So a lot of people are playing the victim and they don't even know it. That's an energy that you exude. And that energy then creates your reality, where you're put into situations where you're not happy, where you feel like you're less than, and the people who are around you are supporting that. They're supporting your thoughts.
Wow. Do you, when you're doing your mediumship, your readings or whatever, do you ever sort of get messages from beings, or who are you actually talking to?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes dead people come through too. There's so many different entities to talk to. There's dead people. There are entities that they really don't have a body. They're more like a consciousness that floats around. You can also tap into a collective consciousness. And also I read the energy of my clients, and I can feel the vibration that they're exuding. So it's many different things.
Wow. Do you have a website? What's your website address?
Yes, it's planetsev.com.
Okay. And what do you offer? I understood you're going to start a YouTube channel. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it's called Alien Spirit. And I recently, just last week, I was in the Bermuda Triangle. I was on a sailing adventure. And I did some filming there. And the first episode is about the Bermuda Triangle and Atlantis. And I wanted to find a show or a channel that combined two things that I'm very interested in. And that is, why am I here? What's my purpose? And how can I be at peace? How can I be happy? And I had a hard time finding a show that had to deal with those two topics. So I decided I'm going to create my own show that deals with those two topics. So the first episode is about Atlantis and the Bermuda Triangle. And the second episode, I'm going to be interviewing Diane Kensler, who was my regression therapist for my alien experiences, and that'll be a very interesting episode too. Alien Spirit TV.
Wow, it sounds interesting. Why are we here? That's one of the big questions I always come down to. That you can forget about everything and just figure out. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just figure out, what am I supposed to be doing? I think you figured out your message, but for people, you probably know that vast majority of people, I think the expression is they live lives of quiet desperation. They really don't know what they're doing. They don't know where they're going. And then someone tells them you got 6 months to live, and suddenly they're scrambling, trying to figure out what it was all about. So what would be your message for people? Why are we here? Why are we put on the earth? What are we supposed to be doing?
Well, we're all expressions of love, and we're here just to love as much as possible. And that starts with ourselves. And that's where most of us get caught up. I'm just talking about the American society. In the United States, we are not taught to love ourselves. There are a lot of ways where we're taught to suppress ourselves and to suppress our desires and not to be the most authentic versions of ourselves. We're taught to be powerless. And each of us has chosen to be here. It's our choice. We choose our parents, and we choose when we're born, and we come here, and we all have a mission. All of us have a mission, which is to love as much as possible. And that has to start with yourself. And that's why I talk a lot about this path of authenticity and being your most authentic version of yourself. When you decide to be the most authentic version of yourself, that is you falling in love with yourself and loving yourself. And that's when you exude that energy, your life really dramatically changes. It's just, you are the expression of love, and you came here to express that love, but you start with yourself.
You were always not there. So what changed you, and have you achieved what your goal is, or do you think you're fulfilling it in terms of, or do you just keep sliding back? And so when did you sort of realize what the key was? Was it given to them? Was it given to you by them, or did you suddenly came on your own, or how did this come about?
Well, through years and years of channeling beautiful messages about loving yourself, that was definitely in my mind. The physical reality of my life after my second divorce, I asked myself, what am I doing? Like, I'm not blaming myself. I've been in 2 marriages that were abusive. Like, it's me. What am I doing? Why am I doing this to myself? And so I started that deep questioning of what is going on in me? Why do I think I deserve this? And that's what changed everything for me. So that realization that I don't want to be hooked up with another abusive person again. And so I'm the one that's going to determine that by what I'm thinking. So what am I thinking that's making me think it's okay to be with an abusive person? That is ridiculous. Why did I do this for most of my life? And then when I started realizing the lies that I was telling about myself and how I was keeping myself small and how I wasn't worthy of this and worthy of that, and I transformed all that, my life completely changed. Am I fulfilling my purpose? I think I'm in the process of it. I think I'll be in the process of it until I take my last breath on earth.
Difficult question. You talk about reincarnation, and I assume that you go along with it. In the reincarnation world, you choose your parents. Do you choose the abusive situations? Do you choose those things to learn lessons? Was that part of it? Is that how you look at life? Because a lot of people play the victim role.
Yeah.
You know, I don't deserve this. I didn't choose this. And when you take personal responsibility for why would I choose to do this, then you suddenly see the other side of the story is that you control the situation you're in.
Yes, yes. Often we come in knowing about some of the hardships that we are going to endure. I really do believe that I had decided before coming into this body that I was going to be experiencing victimization. And through the release of it, then I could help others. It is a huge issue. I would say the number one issue with my female clients is the inability to speak up. That's a form of victimization. Men have it too, but it is the number one issue with my female clients. They're not speaking up. And that starts with yourself. They're not speaking up to themselves, let alone speak up to somebody else. This American society is so victimized in so many ways.
Yeah. Your clients that come to you, what is their, I'm assuming they're not looking for the sort of personal responsibility thing. Why did they originally come to you? Do they want you to talk to dead people, or what's your basic client? They may get to a different situation after they talk to you and heard the message, but what are they looking for, most of the people that come to you?
Mm-hmm. I used to do readings where I talk to dead people, but I stopped doing it. And there's other people who love talking to dead people, and it's not really part of my mission. My mission for these readings is for people to realize that they're in power and that they can create their reality to their standards through the energy that they exude. And so what is the energy you're exuding? I help you figure that out by going into your mind and really looking at what are the thoughts that you're having daily, what are the thoughts you wake up with, what are the thoughts that you go to sleep with. So when someone comes to me for a soul purpose reading, usually they've watched the video that I have on my website explaining what it's about, and people are looking for peace and fulfillment and for changes in their reality, and that's what these readings really help them achieve.
Wow. If you watch some of my stuff, you know I'm sort of become obsessed with some of the paranormal phenomena that happens around people like you. Have you had these experiences with apports, with things that appear, disappear, things materializing, paranormal sort of poltergeist type experience around you? Have you had that kind of stuff going on around you?
I don't recall anything appearing or disappearing, but I've always felt entities around me. I've seen things around me, but I really don't have any memories of apportation.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Are you sort of in daily contact with, I mean, are they giving you messages back? Is it going back and forth in terms of what you're doing?
You mean having communication with other entities? Is
well, with the beings that you're dealing with, like a lot of people will say, I know when they're around. For example, Chris Bledsoe, who lives very near you in Fayetteville, will say, in fact, there's a famous story where he's with somebody and then he says, they're here. And then the person is going, what do you mean they're here? How do you know they're here? And he said, I just know they're here. Do you have that sense where you know when they're around? Yes. And they're sort of guiding you, directing you, giving you sort of messages, that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I hear a very high-pitched sound in my ears. Sometimes I can
Which
hear the
year?
frequency in the room like amp up. Both of them.
Okay.
I don't know if it's one in particular. I never thought of it as being one in particular. I can also see energy, and so it looks like static energy sometimes. And so all of a sudden I can see that that's heightened. And also I will see like a little blue ball or a little white ball, like a star that goes off like this. Sometimes also it looks like something wants to appear. Like it looks like something is like a form of something is about to appear. And so there's many signs. Yeah.
The one thing I forgot to ask you is, you ever had a UFO sighting, or are you just dealing with beings? I mean, have you had things appearing, flying around? Where you've mentioned the lights, which a lot of people describe, where the house lights up inside or the hallway and stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen a UFO. I've seen strange things in the sky, but I can't really say that it was a UFO. I really don't have a definitive experience with one.
Well, what do your partners think, the people that you've lived with, in terms of this going on around you? Are they, a lot of people will say, like, my better half doesn't accept this, and I say, I think that's the pattern. Did you have any sort of thing where it's like, keep it to yourself, I don't want to know about this? Or were people accepting of being around somebody who's sort of living in a different dimension some of the time?
My first husband didn't want anything to do with it, and he was not supportive at all. And so I just stopped telling him things. My second husband, when I finally came out, it was towards the end of our marriage, and he was supportive. And I told him I wanted to do readings in the house. I did my readings for free in the beginning in the house, and he was very for it. He was very supportive. My boyfriend, man, I don't know what I would do without his support, because he's seen me be afraid. He's seen the X's. He felt the being in Roswell, and he's very open and very supportive. Can he make sense of it all? No. Does he have a lot of questions? Yes, but he can see that it's real. And he's been a huge support system for me, and so have a group of very, very, very close girlfriends that I have. Without Patrick and without my close girlfriends and Kathleen Martin's help, I would have continued to struggle. So I find it, I urge people to speak, find someone and tell them about your experiences, find someone safe. And these days it's so easy. There's all kinds of groups online. It's so easy to find other experiences or people who are very open to this, who are not going to ridicule you, who are going to listen to you, and who are going to support you. Yeah.
You mentioned Kathy Martin. I'm good friends with Kathy Martin. What kind of contact did you have with her, and how did she sort of guide you to come to accept what's going on?
Well, this was while I was still struggling. It was before I wrote the book, and it was after the two X's, and I'm still struggling with what's going on in my life. And one of my best friends, Elizabeth, who lives on Maui, told me I should watch the movie Unacknowledged by Dr. Stephen Greer.
Okay.
So one afternoon I watched it, and it knocked my socks off, and it lit a fire within me. And as soon as the movie was over, I got up and I walked to my desk, I set up my computer, and I told myself, I have to contact somebody, but who? And I have to send them a pic. I have to show them this X.
Yeah.
And I heard in my head, MUFON. So I'm like, okay. So I Google MUFON, and there's Kathleen Martin, the director of experiential research, and I'm like, she's the one. Yeah. So I sent her a picture and a letter, and within a couple of days she responded. And we Skyped, and we talked for an hour and a half. And she validated everything for me. And she told me, this is real. It's really happening to you. And wow, I can't even begin to tell you. I was like on cloud 9. That was huge for me in moving forward.
Beautiful. Okay, last question. You've written a book called "You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens." So my last question to you would be, what would be the top 3 things that you think the aliens want people to know in terms of your conversations with them? Then we go to the basic question of why are they here? What's really going on?
Okay, the top three things are we're not alone for sure. They've been communicating with us for a long time. The communication doesn't happen just in 3D, it happens in the multi-dimensions, like we talked about, but our brain really loves everything in 3D. So when we have an interdimensional, multi-dimensional experience, our brain doesn't know what to call it. So when you're trying to make sense of it, the brain says that was a dream. You're like, oh, okay, that was a dream. That's really one of the biggest messages. The other message is there are millions and millions and millions of people having ET contact. And they've been having contact with us for a long, long, long time. Also, I am not a believer that there are ETs who want to take over our planet and ruin us. I know there are a lot of people who really talk more about the fearful elements of ETs. Because I haven't had that experience at all, I don't really go there. One thing I do caution is that if you want to communicate with ETs, you absolutely can. And you start off by doing it through meditation. But there is caution here, and the caution is, what are your filters? Like I talked about before, my filter was, and so when I was coming in contact with these grays, I was just assuming they were abusing me. And it's not until I got rid of that filter that I realized that they're not abusing me. Also, we have these agreements with our higher selves. So I know that there's some experiencers who think that this is completely out of their control and they're being abused and they're being taken and they don't want to be taken, but we all have higher selves, including the grays, including the ETs. And these are agreements that we've made. If you're having an experience and you don't want it anymore, you just don't want it anymore, this is a conversation you have between the higher selves. And so you just call it off. And you have to completely mean it, like 100%. Every cell in your body wants it to end, and it will if you do want it to end.
Beautiful. Sev Tok, it's been an honor to talk to you. I will do what I can to get your message out and get you as much publicity, because I think you have an important message for the world, and I want to thank you for spending this hour with me, and hopefully we can do it again. And when I'm in North Carolina, I'll stop by and we'll have coffee or something.
Yeah, I would love it. Grant, thank you so much. I'm really honored to be talking with you. I do find that the work that you're doing is vital for us to come to terms with who we are and why we're here.